Hello everyone, it's Rebecca with Hands and Feet Homestead. Welcome back to the channel. Today, me and my girls are out in the garden and we are just harvesting the little bits of things that are coming in here and there. There's not a huge amount of any one thing just yet. Green beans have just started coming on, so we're getting some of those. Cherry tomatoes are starting to ripen. A little bit of the canning tomatoes, this is the Amish paste, is starting to ripen, but you can see there's a lot more green ones coming, so hopefully in the next 2 months we'll be harvesting more of those. Here I'm just picking my basil. It's good to pinch off the tops of your basil plants if you want them to keep growing and bush out instead of having them go to flower, and I'll just use those in a recipe later this week. I have more cherry tomatoes here. This is the black cherry. It's one of my favorite cherry tomatoes. It has a really good flavor. I got my one ripe Amish paste. It looks a little scary, but it'll still be good. This onion is one that overwintered from last year, so it looked pretty good, so I decided to pick that. So we're getting a few peppers here and there, so I'm just going to pick what we have on the plant. I grew 4 different types of bush beans this year. This here is the red swan. It's a really pretty pink color. I've grown that in the past and I really like that one, and the kids really like the color. If you have young kids, it's a fun variety. I also did the yellow wax bean and the dragon tongue, and that is this purple and yellow speckled one. That one's really fun for kids too. And then just a normal green colored one. I think it's the contender or the strike. I can't remember which variety. The red swan variety does turn green when you cook them or ferment them, and the dragon tongue turns yellow too, so they don't keep their pretty colors on there, but I just think that in the basket it looks really pretty with all 4 colors like that together. We are growing our first watermelon here. That's exciting. Hopefully it'll get to maturity and ripen. One thing we've been getting a good amount that just started coming in are cucumbers. I harvested some earlier this week and there was a whole nother flush on there. So those are coming in pretty strong right now. I did a bunch of different varieties, but I did mostly pickling cucumbers because there's only so many fresh eating cucumbers you can keep up with eating. And then here it's kind of turned into a big mess over there, so I'm trying to just train up the vines to go up the trellis. They're just kind of sprawled out all over the place. We have a lot of carrots. They're all pretty much ready to go, and so we've just been harvesting those as we need them for fresh eating. And then I will leave them in the ground until we get like a nice light frost before the ground freezes. I'll pull them up and then they'll get an even sweeter flavor. The kale is going strong, so I'm harvesting what good leaves I can find off of it right now. They have been eaten by grasshoppers. I did take out a bunch of leaves, but then it just keeps growing new leaves, so I'm taking the nice ones that are on there. And we've been enjoying the kale in Swiss chard by making some green juice, just putting it through my juicer and adding some apples or something to it, and it makes it really tasty. I only grew a couple zucchini and summer squash plants this year because I still have tons of dehydrated zucchini and squash from my garden last year because I grew a ton last year, so I did go easy on those this year. Those are the purple Prince zinnia. That's my favorite zinnia variety. They're so pretty. They're these huge, big purple flowers. They kind of have like a dahlia type of look to them, and they're really beautiful. And so now we're going to go to the greenhouse, and I have 4 cherry tomato plants in there, and those ones are doing really well. I have them growing up strings. I usually just grow 1 vine up a string, but since I only had 4 plants in there, I let a couple suckers go, and I'm just having them grow up a couple strings per plant, 2 to 3 per plant depending. But there is a huge difference between the greenhouse and the outside. I've gotten earlier tomatoes, obviously, and just a lot more ripened tomatoes inside the greenhouse, which has been nice. The kids love those as a snack. We haven't had enough to put away in the freezer yet, but we're just snacking on those, and hopefully they'll be coming in more and more, and we'll be starting to put them away in the freezer. I have some cabbage that is ready. It's August, it's not the most ideal time for cabbage, but I'm going to take what I can get out of there right now. I have a couple green and a few red ones as well. I don't know if I will end up getting my cabbage for the fall. I always intend to grow cabbage for the fall, and I don't ever seem to plant it in time, so it usually becomes mature right in the middle of the heat of the summer, which is not ideal. So I don't have a huge amount of these, so I'll probably just have them for fresh eating throughout the next few weeks. And I gotta make sure that we clean up our leaves and bring them to our chickens. We finally got them penned up, which has been really nice, so we don't have to enjoy their droppings all over the place. And so that's been really nice, but they do need some extra treats when they're all penned up, so we're giving them the cabbage leaves. The girls really love collecting our eggs, so they're helping me out here today. I got the nesting block boxes really cleaned out. I'm trying to make sure to get new shavings every day because I'm planning on water glassing these eggs, and you need extremely clean eggs for that. So I'm going to show you later in this video how we start water glassing those for preservation to use in the winter months. And we're back inside, and I'm taking all of my veggies out, everything I harvested, just to see what we have. And this is what we came up with, and then start getting an idea of what I'm going to do with all of it. So most of it I'm going to use for fresh eating throughout the week, and I'm just going to get everything packaged up and put away. But as I said, I did harvest more cucumbers earlier this week, so I do have enough to make some refrigerator pickles with those. So we are going to do that in this video and a few other preservation projects. Berries have been amazing this year. We've had so many raspberries and strawberries, but this has been my best year for berries so far. We've had plenty for fresh eating, and I've been able to put a good amount in the freezer, and I'm super excited about that because I think that I will have enough to actually make jam with my own berries from my garden this year. So looking forward to trying that out. I've been wanting to use Pomona's pectin. That's a pectin you can use way less sugar in the jam and still have it set up really nice. And so I'm excited to experiment with that this year. We've just been freezing them on these trays and putting them in the freezer so that they are more separated and they're not all chunked together, because my girls do love to eat frozen berries. That's one of their favorite snacks, so it's nice when they're not all clumped together. That's why I freeze them flat on the trays, and then I put them away in the freezer bags and store them that way. So these are the eggs that we collected that are super clean, and we're going to start water glassing them. So for water glassing eggs, you need calcium hydroxide or pickling lime. I buy mine from Azure Standard. You can buy it in bulk from there. And you just need 1 ounce of calcium hydroxide per quart of water. So I did 2 ounces of calcium hydroxide in 2 quarts of water, and then I'm mixing it all up. And then it is so important that you use only very clean eggs. As I mentioned earlier, you can't have any, not even the tiniest little speck of anything on it. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of looking them over, making sure they're looking good, and putting them in the jar. You want to put them in a glass jar. You can also use plastic buckets. I did a plastic bucket last year. And see here, this one was no good. There was just a tiniest little smudge on there from dirt or something like that from the chicken, so I didn't use that one. So you need to be very choosy with your eggs. Basically, you just layer them in your jar, and then you can pour the calcium hydroxide mixture with the water over the eggs, and I'm gonna just keep adding to this jar as the week goes on, and then as it fills up, I'll just continue to add the mixture to it until it's full. And then you just cap it and put it on your pantry shelf. You don't need to refrigerate it or anything, and you just use them throughout. I can use them throughout the winter months as I would regular eggs, and when the chickens aren't laying as much in the wintertime. So now we're moving on to making refrigerator pickles. I had a couple gallon freezer bags full of the pickles in my refrigerator, so I'm just slicing them up. You can slice them into spears or slices, or if you have small pickles, just keep them whole, however you choose. So I'm just slicing up what I can, and I'm going to use those 2 peppers I got from the garden and just add those in there too. I'm just seeing how much will fit in each of these jars. And now I'm making the vinegar solution. I buy my white distilled vinegar. It's an organic vinegar in bulk from Azure Standard, and it is 11% or so acidity, so I'm just diluting it down to 5%. And so for the brine, all you're going to need is 4 cups of water, 4 cups of 5% white distilled vinegar. You can sub apple cider vinegar too. It just has to be a store-bought vinegar so that you know it's 5% acidity. And then you need to add 4 teaspoons of salt. And I added about 2 teaspoons of sugar. That's optional. You don't need to add the sugar, but I think it just adds a little extra flavor to it. And so now we're going to take a break and go out to the garden and harvest some grape leaves for the pickles and some dill. I only have 1 grape plant, and I got 1 little tiny cluster of grapes on it last year. Didn't really ripen right, but I do enjoy growing my grape plant for the leaves so that I can use it in pickling and fermenting projects. Adding grape leaves to your pickles or your ferments helps keep the crunch to the vegetables that you're preserving. You can also sub bay leaves, you could do oak leaves, anything with tannins in it. And we're just taking a little fun break to play outside for a minute with the girls. Okay, and we got everything that we need, so we're gonna head back into the house now. So I have some garlic that I harvested from my greenhouse about a month ago. My garlic harvest was pretty sad. I didn't give it enough water. It didn't have irrigation, so they're really small, but this will be perfect to use for preservation and pickles and things like that, just adding a whole bunch of little tiny cloves in with it. So here we are, we're just opening up all of the garlic, and my daughter is able to help me. I gave her a little butter knife, and she was actually doing such a good job opening the wrappers and was really having fun helping out with that. Now we're gonna dump all the pickles back into the bowl so we can add our garlic cloves in, and then we can add our dill onto the bottom. And you can add in any seasonings that you want to add to it. You can do pickling spice if you like. I'm just doing some mustard seeds. And then we're going to add some black peppercorns to it. And then we're going to fill up the jars with our cucumber slices and peppers and just do about halfway. And then I add the grape leaf in, and then we fill it up the rest of the way. While you're doing that, you have your brine simmering on the stove. Just bring it up to a boil, and then once it gets there, then you just pour it over your cucumber slices. Just fill up your jar, just make sure they're totally covered, and put a little lid on them. Make sure they're cool enough to put into your refrigerator, but that's it. They're ready to eat, the next day. If you wait a couple more days, they'll have better flavor by then. If you go online, they'll say it lasts like a month or so, but really, in reality, I've had them last for many, many months in my refrigerator and in my cold storage last year. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed coming along with us as we harvested some things from our garden and did a few preservation projects. We really appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks again for watching. Take care and God bless.